Hey guys, welcome to Rebuilding the Beast. I'm your host, Festus Ezeli, NBA player turned podcast host. And on this show, I'm going to have a lot of my inspiring friends come on to share with you their rebuilding journeys. I hope you can take the tips from their lives and apply it to your life as well. Oh, and don't forget to hit subscribe, like, comment, share with a friend. All the things. All right, I'll see you guys soon.
Nice to meet you. Hi, Abi. Welcome to Rebuilding the Beast.
Nice to meet you too. Thanks for having me.
Of course. You're calling from London.
I am.
And we were just talking about, your soccer team and everything that's been going on. How are you guys doing over there right now?
Yeah, we're doing better. We're recovering from the football. People are calming down a little bit. The sun's been out today. Just England. I moved back to England like a year ago, after like traveling the world for a decade, basically. Like the past few couple of weeks have kind of reminded me why I left, but things are getting better.
Like I said earlier, I don't think is there any country where people are where they feel like, well, everything's great here. I think every country is going through their fair share, especially with like COVID and everything. Like we're all just trying to figure out what's going on, you know?
Yeah, it's a long process, hey.
I'm super excited to share your story, and thank you for being willing to share as well. It's really cool what you do, especially I've seen you on Instagram. I see your reels, you're hilarious. You get to share your story in a way that's very palatable for people, but also in a very funny way. We're going to be talking about addiction.
Yes, addiction, my my expertise. I'm really good at getting addicted to stuff.
See, you're already started. You're hilarious. I don't know many people who speak so candidly about their addictions as you do. And for anybody that doesn't know about your account, can you tell us about your past addiction?
So, among many things, alcohol is like my main addiction. But over the last, pretty much since forever, I've struggled with drugs and alcohol, all stemming from a manner of all things: mental illness, depression, childhood trauma, a big cocktail of stuff.
That topic, the topics of trauma, these are things that I think that I've come to be more aware of with starting this podcast, and we keep having conversations about things, and it's like, wow, people need to talk more about their traumas and how it induces them or it inspires them to go into finding ways to cope, right? And that's where addiction comes from. So maybe you can take us back and talk to us about how it all started and your first introduction with alcohol and then everything else.
It all started on a stormy night. I guess in Britain there's a massive drinking culture, binge drinking. So I was drinking from a young age, from when I was a teenager, and I've always struggled with my own feelings and emotions and being inside my own head. I've got borderline personality disorder, which I've only recently in the last year been finally diagnosed with. It all made perfect sense. But I've always had trouble regulating my emotions, and alcohol was a way of getting outside of my head, just running away from the noise. And it was, just as soon as I started drinking, I just loved it. I couldn't get enough of it. It just helped me so much.
It's so funny because I had the opposite thing. When I tried to drink when I was younger, and I hated the taste of alcohol. So it was an immediate turn off for me. I was like, well, that's not my path. What was it about alcohol?
Pardon?
What was it about alcohol that made you want more?
I think definitely just the feeling that it gave. I was just such a as a teenager and as an adolescent, although I was I had a lot of friends, I was popular, I was confident, just inside I was really quite troubled. I was really quite, I still am an introverted extrovert, and alcohol kind of just made me feel at ease. And yeah, like I said, it just stopped the noise in my head, basically. Another thing I've always struggled with is self-worth. Like I've only up until recently, I've learned to love myself. Like I hated myself for so long, just self-loathing. And then drinking helped with that. It just made me forget. Like it made me forget all of my troubles, all of like everything. And yeah, just, and also being a teenager, I was having so much fun. Like go to parties and meeting people, and yeah, I loved it.
Starting off with alcohol, it seems like it starts off as fun. It starts with something that you like, and then it goes off into something else. It actually goes into like other drugs, and like you even talk about smoking crack. Like this is things that we all look at as extreme. Did you feel like these things were extreme at these points?
Yeah. I mean, like when I was drinking alcohol, I got onto harder stuff like crack and all sorts. I went through a really interesting opium phase at one point. That I feel like I was in my mental state meant that I was gonna take anything. I was gonna do any drugs, really, like whatever it was. Like I stopped caring about myself and my own safety, and I didn't really care if I lived or died. So if someone like put a crack pipe in front of me, I was like, why not? Just do it.
What were you going through as a teenager or, older? What were you going through that caused you to want to numb yourself with alcohol and drugs?
Honestly, I think it generally was the issue of self-worth. Yeah, not caring about myself and just escaping from my problems. Like through my addiction, I never faced my problems. Like that was the reason why I was using and drinking, like was to run away from my problems. So I didn't have to face them. Like it was too much hard work. It was too upsetting. So if I just kept on being in this perpetual state of like drunkenness or highness, then I wouldn't have to face those issues, all the issues I knew that I had.
Okay, maybe this would be a better question. What made you want to get sober? Was there a point that you got to that you felt like, okay, this makes me want to stop now?
Yeah. Well, in the years leading up to my sobriety, the decision to get sober, I knew what I was doing was wrong. I knew that the way that I was living was wrong. I was so depressed, and I like drinking and drugging to self-medicate. I knew it was wrong, and I knew that the way that the relationship I had with drugs and alcohol wasn't healthy and it wasn't normal. Like I knew, like waking up in the morning and drinking vodka, like happy people don't do that. People who are like fulfilled in life do not do that. Smoking crack just because I didn't care, like that's no way to live. So I knew that I needed to get sober, but well, first of all, I didn't want to. Like, bloody hell, I did not want to get sober. Like, I was perfectly happy being miserable and running away from that. And yeah, I knew that I'd have to go down a long road of sobriety. Like, I'd have to face my issues. Like, if I did finally stop drinking, basically, like I had a year where I hit so many dark points in my life. I moved to New York to be with a guy, and that relationship broke down. I was already like severely depressed when I met him, and I just kept on going further and further into my depression. I started smoking crack, which is also a very depressing thing to do.
Where do people even find? Well, I don't know if I want to tell people where to find crack, but like, how do you get introduced to that?
So okay, this is something I found. Like your energy attracts like the same kind of energy, right? So when I was like a ball of chaos, like going around doing reckless things, risky behavior, and basically being chaotic, that's exactly what I attracted into my life. Like I attracted another chaotic person who was also severely depressed, and he was like, hey, like he was a recovering drug addict, and then he was like, hey, and he relapsed, and he was like, hey, I'm going to start smoking crack again. Do you want to come along for the ride? And I was like, and I was depressed, and I didn't care if I lived or died. So I was like, do you know what? Why not? Like, this is going to help me not feel things anymore. Let's smoke crack. So I did.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, but where's your family at this point, though?
So right, my life is just a series of me trying to escape stuff. Like I'm always trying to escape. It's only now in sobriety that I've actually faced my problems. So I left home when I was 20. Well, I left my mum's house when I was 18, but I left England when I was 23, and I went traveling around the world for like 10 years.
How old are you now?
I'm 33 now. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I packed a backpack and I was like, see ya. So I went to Southeast Asia. I lived there for a while. I went to Australia. I went to the States. I went to Canada. Basically just drinking and drugging my way around the world. So my family, my support network wasn't nearby. And you know, they saw what I wanted them to see. So they saw pictures on Instagram, and maybe I was at a party, or like, you know, it was like a highlight reel of like the good points in my life. Lots of pictures of me pretending to be happy when I was deeply depressed. And I told everyone I was fine. Like, I didn't want anyone to interrupt my drug taking. Like, I wanted to keep on doing it. So like, I hid that from my family and all my friends back at home.
That was, I think this is like part of why this podcast exists and why this platform exists, because I am really sick and tired of Instagram and the way we portray ourselves. Like, everything's perfect, everything's great, and our lives are amazing. And as we all know, nobody's life is perfect. All right. We all have things that we're dealing with, and rebuilding the beast is this idea that we're all recovering from something. We're all dealing with something, some kind of rebuilding our lives. And there's a process that goes to it. And if you share your story, it can be somebody else's survival guide. And you never know. And the story is even better. Like, I always use the example of, picture you posting a red Ferrari, right? Everybody wants to say their accomplishment. So let's call the accomplishment a red Ferrari. And you're standing in front of me like, yo, this is so dope. People, look how dope I am because I have this thing. But if I got to understand your story and where you came from, and what you had to do to get it, and how hard you had to fight, and how much you were studying and you were working, and, you know, people didn't support you. Like, that story behind it, the story of the build and the rebuild, after you've been knocked down a couple of times by life, I think that makes that picture so much more powerful, that other people can look at that picture and look at you and say, wow, like, he deserved that because of everything he's been through. And so when I see your story and I see the reel of you talking about, you know, what your addiction looked like when you were going through your phase of, you know, in your 20s, and then what you look like now, how happy you are, how much happier you are than when you were back then. It's like, people need to hear this story. I think it's important, the things that you've been through. So you just spoke to something that really, really, like, that's one of the reasons why I started this, is this idea that, yo, like, it's okay to be vulnerable and be transparent. And I think it's important because that's what will cause the change that we want to see in this world, is letting people know that they're not alone in whatever they're facing, you know?
That's it. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to accomplish with my own Instagram. Now it's not a private account of me pretending to be happy. Now that I share like my addiction recovery and my story, like, it's that authenticity that, you know, inspires people and like lets them know that they're not alone. Like, I think when people are quiet about these things, it's quite easy to think like, oh my God, I'm the only one who feels this way, I'm the only one who does this. But then when someone else is like, hey, like, I've been there too, you know, it's really comforting for people.
Tell me about the process of getting sober.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
you were telling me your story earlier.
Yeah. So when I was living in New York, my relationship broke down. I moved to Canada, started smoking crack. And things just kept on getting worse and worse. Like, I was getting just a bit further and further into my depression. So when I was living in Vancouver Island and I tried to kill myself, I was like, I just had enough. I was like, right, this is happening. Obviously it didn't succeed, but I ended up in a psych ward for 3 days, which was like a really confusing time because I was in Canada and I didn't really know where it was and I didn't have anyone close to me around. And then when I got out of the psych ward, the first thing I did was get drunk. Like I was like, nah, I'm just gonna go back to my, like, looking back now, I'm kind of thinking like that should have been my wake-up call. Like, I just tried to kill myself. I've been in a psych ward. It was terrifying. But like rather
put you in the psych ward because you tried to kill yourself?
Yeah. So I like almost died and an ambulance had to come and get me. And then they were like, yeah, you gotta get treatment now.
Did the treatment work?
Well, they put me on Prozac, which I am still on now, which does help me, definitely. So I was only there for 3 days, but they kind of like just monitored me, made sure I didn't kill myself, and then I went back, got home, and I kept on drinking. Just kept on, like, I didn't use that as a learning experience. I was just like, I was going to keep on going down this road of destruction. And then one day I was working in a restaurant at the time and I got blackout drunk at work. Like I was there by myself, like with a bar of alcohol, and I didn't care about anything still at this point. So I just like drank a bottle of vodka. My boss came in, the restaurant owner came in, and I was wasted. Like I was blackout, but I've got like little snippets of memory. And I remember just like leaning on something, and my boss was like, what are you doing? And I remember he like took me into the office, and I was sat down, and I was like looking up at him like I was a child being like yelled at by their parent. And then he was like, I don't know, he was angry or something. But the next thing I remember is I woke up in my bed at home, fully dressed, still in my uniform from work. And then I went in the next day, and he was like, I think you like, obviously you're fired, and I think you've got an issue with alcohol. And I was like, yep. But I just blocked it out, went home, got drunk for a week. And then that's when the pandemic started. That's when COVID, a lot of people who were abroad were going home at the time, because of the like uncertainty around COVID. And I kind of took that as an opportunity to go home, to go back to the UK. I went back to the UK, and I went back to my mum's house, and of course, still I carried on drinking, kept on drinking. Like I think, like deep down, I knew that I was about to make a big change, and so I wanted to just like drink as much as I can before I wouldn't be able to anymore. And then about a week into being at my mum's house, it was a very strange experience. It was almost like an epiphany. Like it sounds a bit cheesy, but that was what it was like. It's like a little voice was telling me that, like, just said to me, like, it doesn't need to be this way. You don't have to do this anymore. Like you don't have to drink anymore. You can change your life. And then that's the moment I decided to get sober. I stopped.
This was last year.
Yeah. So this was April 2020.
And so after this, what is the next step? So do you just quit cold turkey? Do you just say, I'm not drinking alcohol anymore? What comes
out? I did that, and I now learned that that's quite dangerous and you shouldn't really do that. I decided to get sober and do it by myself. It was the beginning of the pandemic. Everywhere was locked down. Everything was locked down. There's a lot of uncertainty. So I went cold turkey. I stopped drinking. For me, my process was I told everyone around me. I told my family. I told my friends. I was very honest with them. I was like, I told them I'm in a very dark place. I'm drinking like crazy, but I want to change. And then I downloaded an app on my phone called I Am Sober, and it's like an app you use to track how many days you've been sober for. I downloaded that, And then I like basically just like locked myself in my bedroom and went through alcohol withdrawals for a week, which was hell on earth. It was horrible.
What the withdrawals look like? What did the
So for me, it was about like 4 or 5 days, or like the first few days were the worst. But it was like intense. I was intense trembling. I had fevers, like hot flushes. I was sweating. I was cold. I was hallucinating. Like really, I was out of it. Like I remember my mum kind of like came in my room and she was like, "Are you okay?" And I remember just like my eyes rolling back into my skull, and I was just like, "Oh, I'm having problems," and then I just like passed out. But yeah, it was a lot of like hallucinating. It was weird. It was like being high, but not fun.
So you told your family this, that you're quitting drinking alcohol, and they knew this was going to be a process.
Yeah. Like I think my family and basically just British people in general are just very like, I don't know, we call it like a British stiff upper lip. It's like when we basically just like try and save face all the time and don't really talk about things openly, because that's just what British people do. So yeah, I basically just told them like, I'm getting sober now, and then that was it.
And so you start going through these withdrawal symptoms, and I always liken it to like whenever you try to do something good, positive for yourself, right? Like you think about like an apple or a cookie, and you're like, okay, well, I'm gonna eat the one that makes my body feel good, right? But it's the apple is that one, but it doesn't give you that same rush as the cookie.
Yeah.
Right? When you eat it, you're like, that's fine, but I don't feel as good as I would if I ate the cookie. And in this regards, and it's the same thing, like you try to quit eating sugars, you try to quit alcohol, quit drugs, like anything that gives you that high, your body reacts to it. Now, how did you fight against this? Did you just like power through when you're going through these? Because I know that these things can be hard.
Yeah, I powered through. I watched the entire series of Parks and Recreation.
Okay, so if anybody wants to be sober out there, the whole season of Parks and Recreation will do it for you. Okay.
Yeah, it cured me. Yeah, it was like my little comfort show. I just watched episode after episode, and I kind of like, I don't know, I guess I immersed myself in that world almost. Yeah, it's me and my escapism. I did that. I drank a lot of water. I took a lot of vitamins. I drank a lot of green smoothies, like just trying to like be healthy. And I just gave myself permission to eat whatever I wanted to, and just and just kind of like be kind to myself.
What is so you talked about your friends and stuff. Also, you made this point that you're going to be sober, and I know the friends can have an influence on you as well, right? Do you feel like the people around you were a bad influence before this? And if so, like, how do you get out of a toxic environment if that's the case?
No, I was the bad influence, I would say. Like, for me, I take complete responsibility for what I was doing. Like, for me, it doesn't matter who I was around. I was going to do whatever I was going to do. Like, I wanted to take drugs and I wanted to drink. Like, it doesn't matter who was around me at the time. Quite often I was the bad influence. I was the toxic person.
Yeah, but you talked about one of your exes being the person that introduced you to crack too. So like, yes, you might want to do drugs or you might want to escape, but then you don't have the access to these things. So there's also, I really respect the idea of taking responsibility, and that's really beautiful. Yeah. But there's also an aspect of like, if you hang around enough people who are doing the same thing, you're going to be one more person who's doing that thing.
Yeah. I feel like the ex that got me on crack, although he did do that, I feel like if I scouted something out anyway, but I did end up, we were living together in a city, and I left that city to move to Vancouver Island to get away from him, basically, because he kept on giving me crack. Like, it was a never ending crack supply. It was awful. And then yeah, so I got like, yeah, he was, yeah, of course he was a bad influence. So I did move across the country to get away from him. And when it came to like
away from the bad influence guys.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, move across the country. And then I was actually like, oh yeah, I was really surprised by the support that I got. Like, I knew that my close friends were going to be supportive. Pretty much when I told them that I was going to be sober, like, they were all like, good, this is fantastic. Like, yes, you should definitely do this, like, for sure. And everyone was like super supportive. But I did expect that. What did surprise me was a lot of my like party friends were or have been so supportive. Like, a lot of people who I used to drink every day with, a lot of people that I took a lot of drugs with, like, they've all been like so incredibly supportive, which really surprised me.
How did you think they were gonna react to it?
I thought they were gonna distance themselves from me. I think that they were gonna, you know, I thought maybe that they would think that I was judging them, like, which obviously I would do, because like drugs and alcohol, I love drugs and alcohol, but it's the fact that I can't like control myself around them is why I don't partake in them. Not because I judge other people, like, not because I think it's like bad to drink alcohol necessarily. It's just, you know, I have a very unhealthy relationship with it. So I thought they were going to distance themselves from me. I thought they were going to, maybe me going sober would make them reassess their own relationship with alcohol, and maybe that would make them feel uncomfortable. Maybe they didn't want to do that. But yeah, that didn't happen. Everyone was like just so on board, like, which, yeah, made me really happy, because it like reminded me that the people around me had my best interest at heart.
So I think a big factor why people often hide their past is shame. But at the same time, it's important to share our low moments and the bad decisions, because it shows others that, you know, we can move on from those bad decisions and that they aren't alone. What would you advise others on on ways to lose that shame and to speak more openly about addiction? How would you advise people on this decision like you've taken so far?
I find the best way that I've coped with my shame, and oh god, I've had so much shame. Like, I've done some terrible things, like some really dreadful things that I am not proud of at all.
Share a couple of us.
Well,
I heard your Friday confession. Oh Lord, I heard your Friday confession today.
Did you? Oh, I'm so glad that you watched that. There you go. I do share some of my worst, my embarrassing experiences on my Instagram.
Can we get an example, please, of some of the low moments?
Well, the story that I was telling today was,
you can share. People on here haven't heard your story, so
yeah. Well, the story that I was telling today, just briefly, when I used to be a groupie, I used to like knock around with rock bands and go on tour with them, because like that was really glamorous to me. Yeah, I ended up having a threesome with this band, which was really fun. It was really good at the time. We decided to make a sex tape, because, you know, that's just what you do in that situation, apparently. And it ended up, well, he ended up showing it to a load of people that we knew. And then,
like, I don't know that you record things to keep them. Do you record things to keep? I feel like you record things to have video proof to show. That's how I've imagined what that will be.
Yeah. No, I think we were just all like drunk and high, and we were like, "How, you know, what would be really fun right now is if we had a threesome and videotaped it." And then he just ended up showing a bunch of people.
How did that feel though? It feels violating to me. But
you know what? Like, obviously it's not right, and there's like a lot of like issues with consent around that, but it's never angered me. I wasn't angry at the time, and not angry now. Like, probably says something more about me. Like, I don't know. I think going back onto the idea of shame, like, I don't feel like I felt ashamed about that. I'm very like sex positive. Like I said, I know what I know him showing people our sex tape was not an okay thing to do, but it's just never bothered me. I think I'm very open about my body and just sex in general. Like, for some reason, I just really didn't mind people seeing me. And I'm still not angry about it now, which I guess is one of the reasons why I'm able to talk about it so openly.
I'm curious, have you ever faced any negative feedback for speaking so bluntly about addiction on social media? Like, I remember reading that someone accused you once of bragging about your substance abuse.
Yeah, I get so much negative feedback. I get so many trolls. Although it's important to note that I get so much support and I get so many lovely messages from people. It's like 95% amazing feedback, really beautiful messages, and then 5% negativity. So yeah, I get a lot of trolls, and I think it comes from a place of like ignorance, not understanding addiction. I think a lot of people, when they don't understand addiction, they completely blame the person. And it's not as black and white as, you take drugs, you make the decision to take drugs one day and then all of a sudden you're addicted and that's your fault because you made that choice. Like, there is so much more to it. There's trauma, there's sexual, physical abuse, there's mental illness, depression, like so much stuff leads to someone like becoming addicted, So a lot of people don't understand it. Also, drug addicts and alcoholics are so dehumanized in our society. There's a big stigma about it. So I think people like feel like it's okay to abuse someone for being a drug addict or an alcoholic, because in their mind they're not human. Like, yeah, their identity as a drug addict, as an alcoholic, your identity gets stripped away, and people don't treat you like a person anymore, because you're a dirty junkie or whatever. Like, a lot of people see it as a weakness, like, oh, you're not strong enough to live your life without these things. But like I said, it's such a complicated issue.
How is your voice though? And this is, I'm interrupting your answer, but
Yeah,
you come back to it.
Sure.
How is your voice helping humanize people who face addiction?
I think by being so open about it, and the issue of shame, like putting a human behind it. So when I'm on my Instagram or on my TikTok and I'm talking about my experiences, and I'm talking about the way I've felt, the things I've done, yeah, it puts a human face to this, like this thing of addiction, this stigma of addiction. Being open about it, a lot of the time with shame, people think they're the only one, and that's why that's one of the reasons why they might be so ashamed, because they think, oh my god, I've done this terrible thing, I feel this terrible way, like I'm so ashamed of that, I'm the only one. But when you talk about it openly, and have discussions and open a dialogue, like people see that there are other humans who feel this way, and that really, that humanizes things.
Beautiful. And the fact that you're the person who gets to take that negative criticism as well, that makes you, you're a warrior for the people who are facing these things. And I say it all the time, like, you're facing this journey because you can be the person that shows others that the mountain can be moved. Like this hard thing, this addiction, this substance abuse, you're showing people that you can conquer this battle. And that's the purpose of this journey. So I really want to commend you on that part. You were talking about the negative comments and the negative feedbacks, and what kind of things, and I know from being in the spotlight that people can be very, very, very unkind. And this is me playing a sport, so I can only imagine what people would say to a person that they viewed as I don't know, an addict or whatever they think an addict is supposed to be, or dehumanize, whatever. And so I want to talk about that. What kind of negative feedbacks would you get on social media or in person, maybe?
So it's either people telling me that like I'm either bragging about my alcoholism and my drug addiction, like, which obviously is just so bizarre to me. Like, why? Like, it was hell on earth. Like, it's not impressive. Like, it's not like something that I'm gonna think people are gonna respond well to. You know, people think that I'm attention seeking. You know, as a young-ish female, people don't think that I can be an alcoholic. You know, when you think of alcoholic, sometimes you would like think of like an old man on the street. You don't think of like a young woman who's currently functioning in society. But addiction doesn't discriminate at all. Like, so that's another thing people don't understand. Like, I get people like telling me like, oh, this is your fault, like, or how could you do this to people, like, and it all comes from a place of just not understanding addiction, not understanding the complexities, which is another thing that I'm trying to do with my social media presence, is to kind of explain to people, almost like get them to understand that these are issues that people are facing.
What's the biggest lessons that you've learned from your substance abuse and getting sober?
Biggest lessons is to love yourself, like, and to treat yourself with kindness. Like, I treated myself with such cruelty for so long, by abusing my mind, my body mainly, my soul, my spirit. Like, I treated myself like you would your worst enemy. Like, I treated myself so badly, put myself through so much like unnecessary like trauma. I just had this huge internal battle going on with myself, and I just beat the crap out of myself, basically.
Tell me about, and that's something a lot of people struggle with too. And I've done a couple episodes recently where this idea of self-worth keeps coming up, where like your self-worth is, there's something about that's damaged. You just don't see yourself as worthy. And so you start to treat yourself in all these, in these terrible ways, whether it's with food, whether it's with alcohol, whether it's with sex. All these different things become something that you use as a crutch. So now let's give people a tip on how to show love to yourself. How do you do that? How do you show yourself that you know what, I love myself? I'm treating myself like my best friend instead of my worst enemy.
Before I was able to love myself, I had to get to know myself again. I had to rediscover who I was. I'd run away from myself for so long by numbing myself with drugs and alcohol. I had no idea who I was. Like, I was hating myself, and I didn't know me. So I got to know myself again. And when I did that,
wait, how do you do that?
I spent a lot of time on my own. I really spent a lot of my time on my own. Meditation is like one of my
Game changer for me.
Yeah, it's like one of my, like, it's one of the reasons why my sobriety, I think, has been successful. Meditation has really helped me. Really helped me.
How did it help you? Actually, you just reminded me I haven't done it today.
Yeah.
How did it help you get through this phase? A lot of people don't even know what meditation is, and when they think about it, it's like, oh, this new hokey thing. So maybe you could talk about your experience with that as well.
Yeah, like, the meditation helped me because spending that time by myself, with myself, that sacred time when you're in meditation, that's when I got to know myself, and that's how I learned self-worth, I think, anyway. That's how I learned to love myself. Like, I meditate in like many different ways. Sometimes I meditate to calm down. I meditate to get closer to God. I meditate to relieve stress, anxiety. I meditate just if I feel a little bit lost that day, like if I those days when you just don't feel right and you're like, oh no, today's a bit of a weird day, I'm like, I'm going to meditate on that, and then I sit in meditation and kind of things, just having that time with yourself in your own mind, having that kind of like divine sacred time with a higher power, if that's what the kind of thing that you meditate on. It's so valuable to me, so valuable.
I think there's a power in being by yourself. There's there's a book I read. It's called The Monk Who Sold His Red Ferrari. That's where this analogy of red Ferrari came from.
Yeah.
And it was about a guy who lived in the hustle and bustle. He was a lawyer, high-powered lawyer, and he was just like, his life was really unhealthy. Had a heart attack, and then he became a monk. He wanted to go to the mountains to figure out his life after that. And he came back with all these lessons. He came back looking younger and a whole bunch of things, looking way more fit. He was overweight before. And all these lessons about life, to make life way simpler than we try to make it. And meditation was one of them. He talked about 15 minutes of silence a day and all these different things. Talked about your diet, how like cutting meat out, not, even if not completely, at least reducing the amount that we eat that's way unnecessary. Just the way that you treat yourself. And I started to apply these things. I read that book twice, maybe 3 times in quarantine last year in lockdown. And I started to try to apply these things. I actually cut meat out last year, but then I introduced it back with training and things, but I eat it like, just a little bit, like maybe once a day. And I noticed a difference in the way that I feel. And so when you think about all these things, they all tied in together and just into this idea of loving yourself and being disciplined and treating yourself like somebody you care about. And so I love to hear other people's experiences, because to me, it's like, wow, it's the same idea when you share the bad things you've been through. I also want to share the tips of how you got through those bad days as well. So thank you for sharing that part of it, meditation. Are there any other things that you tried and you've done, therapies or like whatever, like what other things have you done to love on yourself, to treat yourself, like you said, somebody that you care about?
I journal every day and every evening. In the morning, do a gratitude journal. So in the morning, I write down 3 things that I'm grateful for. That like sets my mindset up for the day. Like when you start your day with a mindset of gratitude, it changes how your day goes. Like having that rather than going into the day with the lack mindset, like, oh, I don't have this, oh, I've got to do that, oh, like that. Going into the day thinking like, oh my God, I've got my body, I've got my spirit, I've got my friends, I've got my family, I've got a house, like I'm living in a house, like yeah.
That's the same thing. I actually just talked about this. My car got broken into last week. Actually, part of the reason why I'm doing this podcast in my family's home, and I'm trying to figure it all out. But my car got broken into. They took all my stuff in the car. I was actually about to take a trip. So I had even my podcast equipment, my laptop, my passport, my clothes. And I'm upset and I'm mad. But then like, it was weird because there was this weird moment, because I've been doing all this work. Like I said, I've taken the last year to make sure that, I'm more aware of the way I treat myself. And in that moment of being upset, I was like, oh, this is a great time to see if this gratitude thing works. This is how my mind works. And so I started just like counting. I started counting to 10. All of a sudden I counted to 15 and 20. And I started thanking God for the ability to walk, for my car is still there. They broke through the windows and stole my stuff. My car is still there intact. I have beautiful friends that support and care about me that called me immediately. They saw that on the news. I have a beautiful family. I came back and told my parents that this happened. And instead of laughing or being upset with me for leaving my stuff, I don't know what I was thinking in my head when I was driving home, but they were like, hell, as long as you're okay. You'd be surprised at what that does to know that you have that kind of support. So when I started listing all these things to be grateful for, whole mindset changed. So when you really focus on what you have and not or the things that you don't have, rather focus on the things you have rather than the things you don't have. Yeah, it's beautiful how that changes your mindset. In that moment, I'm driving home with my busted windows, loud as hell, but I'm still happy. I'm like content because I focus on the things I was grateful for. So yes, very big one.
Yeah,
you got me really excited. All right, sorry, keep going.
I love that. Yeah, then also in my journal, I write 3 things that would make that day great. Three simple things that I can do in my day that is going to make it great. Then I write affirmations. Usually these affirmations are like, I am confident, or I am a magnet for good energy, or I have a life of abundance, that kind of thing. And then in the evening, I just quickly write a few things, just saying 3 great things that happened. Just before I go to bed, again, I'm going to sleep with this mindset of gratitude, because I'm thinking about 3 amazing things, 3 beautiful things that have happened in my day. And there are all these small things, like I got to speak to this friend today, or sometimes I write I had a really nice bagel or something. But still it's those little wins, little joyful moments. And then I write one thing that that would have made the day greater, just to reflect, and journaling has really, really, really helped me as well.
I'm gonna steal that last one. I've never done that one before, so I'm gonna steal that last one and start doing that. You earlier you were beginning to talk about how you were diagnosed with a personality disorder. Can you explain what that means? Because I've heard that a couple times in a couple of different ways. So maybe you can explain what that is and what that means to you.
It basically means that I find it very difficult to regulate emotions. Very, very difficult. And being able to regulate your emotions, it's a difference between taking something on the chin to flying off the handle. Now, I always knew that there was maybe something not right with me, because I don't know, I'd always take things so badly. Like, I want to say use the word dramatic, but I was very, very dramatic. But yeah, life's hardships just really, really, in some situations when someone might be like, oh, that's a bit crap that happened. Like, I would be like, oh my God, my life is over, the world's ending. Yeah. But through therapy, and through a lot of reading and meditation and journaling and also yoga, I've learned how to manage it.
How does therapy help?
I'm not currently in therapy at the moment, but in the past,
or how did it help?
So just talking about it. So I've done a lot of CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and yeah, that's always helped me. The thing is with borderline personality disorder, you can't take medication for it. It's all going to be managed through therapy. And cognitive behavioral therapy basically trains you how to rewire your mind and how to rewire your mind so you react differently. So you don't think, oh my God, it's the end of the world. So you can start thinking things through until it becomes natural to you. So that, being able to learn how to, I feel like for people who don't have borderline personality, regulating your emotions is just a natural thing that you do, that your body does, your mind does. But it's something that I had to learn.
I've always been a big advocate for therapy because I think people look at it as a certain way. For example, I have a older friend, who I was talking about with this, and he and his wife were having some issues. And I said, well, have you guys ever thought about going to marriage counseling or therapy or something of that nature? And it was so taboo to him because he felt like, what can this therapist who has a bunch of issues themselves, what can they teach me? And how can they be the person to heal me? We all have our problems. I can deal with my own. And I was like, no, that's not the point. The point is not for you only know what you know. And in this situation, it's teaching you better skills to communicate with your partner. It's teaching you a different perspective to different situations that you guys might see. You might see the same thing, but you see different angles of it. And it's something my mom says all the time. She says, if you look at a number, one person could see it as a 6 and the other person sees it as a 9, the other person sees it as a B. And it's like it's this idea that like sometimes you need a bridge to I don't know, how do I say what I'm trying to say? You need somebody to be a bridge for you guys in terms of communication, so you guys can see what each other is saying properly in a better way. So that's why I think that therapy is big. It's big not just in marriage, it's big in life. Like, so therapy is good. My other thing though, as we're winding down, I have a couple of things that I always wonder about this, and maybe you can tell me your perspective. I wonder about medication. I wonder, because you said something about Prozac also helping you right now. I know people who medications help, but then I also wonder if medications affect our emotions and the ability to regulate our emotions as well. Especially when you start early and you don't really, because there's a gradual progression anyway in life, right? As a teenager, you're rampant, you're trying to figure life out, and you have this range of emotions, and then you just start to figure your life out as it goes. I wonder, as life goes on, if you mess your emotions up with drugs or alcohol or medication, I wonder how that affects your ability to control it.
You thinking more like as you're developing, or as an adult, as you're developing?
Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like, so this idea of holding on to this crutch with drugs, I wonder if it affects you, and then later you have to fix it with medication. And so, like, I've always wondered if your body is able to regulate on its own, and you have to go through the growing pains like you did with the alcohol withdrawal of like, it's just a thing I think about. I think about all these things when I have conversation with people.
I think for me, like, medication has been kind of like just like that extra little bit of support. You know, I've only been on Prozac for like the last like 18 months maybe, just before I got sober. And I think it's been like it's been like a security blanket almost. It's been like an extra layer of padding for me. I took antidepressants maybe like early on in my 20s, but when I was a teenager, my emotions were just able to run free.
And by the way, by what I said, I'm also able to see the progress that you've made, and I'm really, really proud of you. All right, so I'm going to dub you a beast for being able to conquer. You're still conquering, but conquering addiction is a big deal. So I'm really, really proud of you.
Thank you.
I always end my conversations with this question, and it's my favorite. The question is, if you could go back and speak to young Abi and talk to her, what would you say to her?
I tell her to love herself. I tell her to trust herself, to just get to know yourself. Like, you don't need to put yourself through like these things. You don't need to punish yourself. That's what I felt like I was doing for a very long time. I was punishing myself by self-sabotage, by making myself miserable, by doing things that I knew were not going to ultimately make me happy. So I tell myself to be kind. Treat yourself with kindness, treat yourself like you would a best friend. Look out for yourself and be patient as well. You don't have to be okay overnight, Yeah.
Be patient, be kind to yourself. Beautiful advice. And I'm sure there's a young Abi somewhere listening to this and saying, you know what, I'm gonna take that advice. So thank you for sharing your story, your beautiful energy. Where do we find you? Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, all the things. Talk to me.
Yeah, so on Instagram, it's Abi.Feltham is my handle. It's abi.feltham, which is Feltham. And then on TikTok, I'm Abi Feltham without the dot. So yeah, those are my only social media channels.
Any plans for comedy in the future? Being a stand-up comedian? You're really funny.
Oh, thank you. You know, a lot of people tell me that maybe I should do stand-up comedy. I might do one day. I think I might need elocution lessons first because I mumble quite a lot. And
that could be no, everybody has their thing. I don't think you mumble, but if you think that's what you're doing, everybody has their thing. So you're fine the way you are. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. But yeah, maybe I should look into it. You're the one telling me that I should, so I'll
You are actually very funny. Thank you so much. Thank you. I know on a Friday night too, so I really appreciate you taking time out to have this conversation with me.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for inviting me. I really enjoyed talking to you. It's been really nice.
Hey, Festus here. I hope you liked that episode. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and here's some more episodes that you might like. On this side.